telling yourself there are consequences to actions, but it's never going to determine your worthiness of something because you genuinely are innately worthy. This is Mindset by Natalia, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about self-forgiveness, how to forgive yourself, how to move on from the mistakes that you've made in the past, how to keep moving forward and have that unconditional love for yourself. Everyone is innately worthy when they are born. Every single human being is born with 100% worthiness. It is just over time that we're here on earth that we start losing that and we start dimming our light and we start thinking that we're not good enough, or we're not worthy of forgiveness, or we're not worthy of unconditional love, or no one has shown us that kind of unconditional love in our lives. But I'm here to tell you that everyone, no matter what, just for being human, you are innately worthy. You are so innately worthy of love, of doing the things that you want, of your greatest desires. Everything comes back to this trope of, am I worthy enough? And I'm here to tell you and remind you that you are innately worthy. There is nothing that you have to do. You just are. The hardest person to forgive is ourselves. Forgiving yourself takes so much self-compassion. And self-compassion, just like anything else, like gratitude or faith, it takes muscle. You have to build the muscle for it. It doesn't just come overnight. It comes from falling over and over and over again, but catching yourself with empathy, with compassion, telling yourself there are consequences to actions, but it's never going to determine your worthiness of something because you genuinely are innately worthy. And the reason that self-forgiveness is so important, but it's the most essential person that you need to forgive, is because you and I live inside our bodies 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, we are in our bodies, we are in our minds. If we're in our minds, we can be overthinking. We can use our intuition to guide ourselves within our bodies. So this is why I say it is so important to forgive yourself. No matter what you have done, you are worthy of feeling loved. What does it feel like when you forgive others? Does it feel genuine? Does it feel forced? I think that's something that we saw a lot when we were younger. Our parents or teachers or anyone, when someone would get hurt, they would tell us, hey, say you're sorry. We grew up in this conditioning of saying we're sorry without actually meaning it, without actually not being shamed and guilt for our actions, but learning that the things that we did were mistakes, especially as children. We're constantly learning, we're constantly evolving. Teachers, parents, loved ones, grandparents, everyone is constantly telling us, hey, that was not nice. Hey, you need to do more of this. It's easy sometimes to forgive others. It can also be the most difficult thing in the world to forgive others. And there's people that maybe you'll never forgive for things that they have done. And that's your own battle, that's a different thing. But here I'm talking about you being able to forgive yourself, being able to release the guilt and the shame. I think that's the biggest thing that carries when we think of forgiving ourselves or just punishing ourselves. It comes back to that shame and that guilt, which we know is such a low vibrational frequency. It is so, so low. Same with anger and sadness. All of those things are so vibrationally low. And if that's what we're stemming, if that's where we're stemming from, how can we go to these different levels of frequencies with love and self-acceptance and authenticity and enlightenment? Like, that's going to be really, really difficult if there's something from underneath that just keeps pulling us down. So it's time to release that and truly let go so that you can become a more self-forgiving person. You did the best that you could with what you had at the time. The tools that you had back then are everything that you had. I love that quote. You can't treat, or how does it go? You can't look back at yesterday with today's wisdom. The things that you learn now, the things that you are acknowledging and accepting now, like, whoa, this was a really big mistake. Whoa, I didn't think that this was going to lead to where it did. Think about if you were building a building for the first time. If you're building a building, but you only have nails and screws, how do you think that house is going to come out? Like, You don't have enough of the wisdom and knowledge to know how it's supposed to be properly built. Over time, you gather new tools, you put new tools in your kit so that you can build this house. You can build the kind of person and the kind of frequency that attracts very aligned and beautiful things. An example that I really want to talk about, because I've seen it in my life, I've seen it in my friends' lives, I've seen it in a lot of places. Again, when we were growing up, things were very different than how they are now, especially when it comes to education and how we treat children and how we have them now like look at their bodies, feel their intuition, connect with themselves, tell us what feels right, what feels wrong for themselves and their bodies. All of that I did not grow up with. I did not grow up with the idea that, yes, therapy, go to therapy, and there's no shame around that. And everyone should be able to access therapy freely. Not at all in the way that it is now, in the way where I can go outside and I can see a billboard that says free therapy for youth and young adults or something like that. How amazing the tools that we've gathered, not only in ourselves, but as a society as well. So much more awareness to what's going on. But going back to the example that I was going to say, so many parents I see just rattled in guilt and shame because they see the things that they did to their children as young children, thinking, this is how I was raised. You see the trajectory of where our parents came from, and we see them, the difference of them and their parents, and we're like 180 different. And now it's the same thing. Again, we're looking and we're questioning, how did our parents do this, or why did they do this, or why did they use this as some form of punishment? But again, you're using the wisdom that you have now and you're blaming and guilting yourself for what has already happened in the past. This requires so much self-forgiveness, because yes, a truly strong person that has hurt other people needs to confront that and needs to say, I'm genuinely sorry if I hurt you or if I did something. Because again, hurt people. In order to be healed and be truly inside of ourselves and our bodies, we need to let go of this stuff. We need to release it. That is the most important thing, moving forward. And again, I just see so many parents rattled up with so much guilt around how they chose to discipline their children or the things that they would say to them. And then as adults, they're talking to their children who are now adults, and their children are like, well, yeah, I remember when you used to do this and that wasn't okay, and I wish you had done this differently. And all of a sudden they're in their minds and they're like, what are you talking about? I never knew that this would affect you so much. I never knew that this would cause you so much pain or hurt, or you would have to go to therapy because of it. But again, that's why therapy is such an important tool to exercise. It's not just like when things are at their worst, we go. Same with the doctor. You don't go to the doctor when you're like, last call, everything's going wrong, my body's just giving up on itself. You do yearly or monthly check-ins to see how are we going, so that if there is ever a problem to occur, we can clean it up or we can clear it as soon as it comes in. We can treat it, right? Same when it goes to therapy. You are not the villain. You were the wounded child. And this is when I go back to what I had just said. Hurt people hurt people. And it is the saddest thing. But someone, especially, I see this all the time in children, someone that is hurt wants to inflict that upon someone else because they don't have the tools to properly use that emotional regulation, to do the self-healing and ask themselves, why am I feeling like this? Is there a way that I can heal this without projecting it onto someone else? That is a huge thing. People love to project on others. We love to project on others and look at them and say, hey, like, just dump all of our problems on them. Because again, who is the hardest person to face? It's us. We're the most critical of ourselves. We're the person that we're with 24 hours a day. So those feelings of shame and guilt, we want to place them anywhere else but on ourselves. We do not want to look in the mirror. And again, this is so difficult as a child, because as a child, you're learning so much for the first time. But again, our actions still have consequences. Our actions can still hurt other people. Just like when we see kids playing on the playground and someone is having a really frustrating day, they've been crying or, just having a frustrating day. And then they push one of their classmates over the swings or something and the friend gets hurt. We see this all the time. And yes, we see that in children, but this happens all the time as adults too. Unless we're aware of that projection and we know how to transform that energy into something that's more healing, we're going to keep doing the same thing. That's why stopping the cycle is the most important thing. I think that's a really, really scary thought for a lot of us, to think that because of our actions, we ended up hurting people. And because of that, now they have pain and hurt inside of themselves. Just like we see it so much with parents or with teachers or mentors, people that said things to us that stayed with us our entire lives. Literally, it could have been a sentence of, hey, you didn't get this, you didn't win at the basketball game, you didn't shoot any shots, I'm really disappointed in you. And you yourself can take that phrase and repeat it over and over and over again until that becomes your belief system. Like, it's wild how much words, and especially words of people that we trust and rely, especially our caregivers, how much those words can affect us and how we can keep replaying the play button over and over and over again. It terrifies me to think that when I was a hurt child, I was hurting other people or other kids. That is so sad to me looking back. And again, it's like, what do you do when you didn't have the tools to know any of this yet? All you can do is rectify your actions now and truly, like, if you need to be forgiven for something, ask for that forgiveness. And if it's yourself that you need to let go of that and you need to just accept that you did the best that you could with what you had at the time, then you need to move forward. You need to keep moving with that. Because again, staying stuck in the same place will keep you in a forever cycle, forever loop. You're always going to stay in that stagnant, very low vibrational energy. And from that point, you can't manifest, you can't get the things that you desire. You're so stuck in that low vibrational state of consciousness. It's hard to do. It's hard to do anything else. The cycle continues until you change it. The moment that you decide to change the cycle is when it starts. Honestly, and again, because we know that our thoughts create our actions, they create the things that we speak out. So if you have that true intention in your mind to do that, and you say, this is where that cycle stops. This is where I stop hurting people because I'm hurt. This is where I develop healing, or I go to therapy and I learn techniques to forgive myself and have unconditional love for myself. When we're able to grasp that, that is the changing moment. And it is so important. And again, it's not all or nothing. There's things that are going to be really difficult to deal with. Maybe again, you'll want to talk to a parent or a friend or a therapist about it. Things that really have been stuck with you for years and years. Forgive yourself and be the person that you would have wanted to be back then. I think I know that you've probably seen meditations and stuff where, like, you go in and you're talking about your wounded child, and you go in and you actually envision, what does that wounded child look like? What is it that she needed? What is it that she just craved so deeply? Sometimes that's just some form of love, whether that's one of our five love languages, want to be felt and held and kissed on the forehead and maybe told that everything is okay and I'm proud of you and you should be proud of yourself too. Anything that you want, you have to be first. In friendships, the kind of friend that you desire, you need to be that friend first. In anything like this, we need to be the first person that does it. If you want to heal and no one else in your family is taking the first step to go to therapy or to talk to someone, you might just have to be that first person. You might have to be the one that breaks the cycle and does things differently, because in stagnation, there is no movement, there is no change. And change is the most natural thing to the universe. The universe is constantly changing, it's constantly expanding. Think of our earth. Think about how every single day you look at the flowers and they look a little bit different, and they lost their petals and they're starting to regrow. Change and movement is the key to this world. We need to constantly be changing and evolving. Now I want you to go back to that tiny little version of yourself and give them that. Give them the freedom, the final freedom of being able to feel the love that you didn't receive when you most needed it. Hug yourself, love yourself, and carry that on to the fact that that little version of you has grown up into who you are today. You are now that person. Kiss yourself, love yourself, do things for yourself, take yourself on little dates. Do the things that you wish others would do for you or would have done for you. Do those things for yourself. If you can't do them, no one else can. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you next week. Bye!